Okay, everyone, welcome to another episode 3 of Not So Common Sense. This episode, we're going to talk about how conservatism actually makes people stupid. Not that people who are conservative are stupid, yes, that can be, but the actual action makes people stupid. Believing in their philosophy, in that philosophy, actually makes you stupid. I'm going to showcase this in 4 ways. One is the economy, second is education, third is healthcare, and fourth would be religion. So, I'm looking at it now. I have two definitions. I searched it on Bing and it comes up with a definition. It says the first definition of conservatism is commitment to traditional values and ideas with opposition to change or innovation. Okay? The second one says the holding of political views that favor free enterprise, private ownership, and socially traditional ideas. Okay, there you have it. In the definition, it opposes change and fixates on tradition. When you hear tradition, you normally think of the way things were done in the past. If it was done in the past, let's not fix it. Just thinking about that already, you can see the problem. It opposes innovation. So if it can be done better, they don't care as long as it's done the way it was done in the past. Hence why you hear people like Donald Trump talk about make America great again, as if America was never great. If it's not great, we don't have to go into the past. We need to focus on making it great in the future, in the present, doing the things that we're supposed to do now. How we're supposed to do it now, not in the past, because it wasn't that great if it's not great now. So, let's start with number one, the economy. Again, it opposes change or innovation. So that would mean that wherever it is right now, let's keep it the same. Think about that. So that means the wages you're making, hence the reason why conservatives are against it, because it's in their doctrine. They're supposed to be against innovation. So that means why raise the minimum wage? We raised it. It shouldn't have been raised in the first place. It should have stayed the same. So, knowing that, so if the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, places like Georgia only follow the federal minimum wage. Yes, jobs can offer whatever bit of money they want. But again, that's not likely to happen. They only do what's legally required for them to do. So again, with Georgia having $7.25 an hour, do you think that they're going to raise the minimum wage or create one if the minimum wage is $7.25 in, let's say, 2025, or about 2050? Do you think you'll be able to buy a loaf of bread with that wage? No, no one does. But conservatives believe, well, let's keep it the same. Let's keep it there. Who cares if it would actually be more beneficial? Because they are against innovation. Traditionally, it was like that. I made $7.25 an hour. My son should make $7.25 an hour. His son should make $7.25 an hour, and so forth and so forth and so forth. Come on. That is the dumbest idea possible. Who can actually live off that? And you know human beings live for at least 80 years. So that means most of your working life, at the age of, let's say, 18, you start working. That's a lot of time you wasting away. And think about taxes. Do they want to raise taxes on the ultra wealthy? Of course not. Every time you hear it, they are against raising taxes on the ultra wealthy. Why? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Why? They will have the money. They come up with ideas like, well, if you tax the wealthy, then there won't be any more wealthy, which is kind of stupid. Because again, you act as if no one's going to buy anything or have any services that these wealthy individuals provide. Think about Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon. Now he just created a position for himself where he doesn't have to work, but he gets money. He's planning to go into space on his own dime. I remember vividly when I used to go to school that if you wanted to go to space, you had to become an astronaut. And becoming an astronaut, you had to have tons and tons and tons of education. Be ranked at the top of your class in every field and position thereof. You had to be super illiterate, a super genius in order to do it. Now, a dummy, and he is a dummy, as Jeff Bezos goes to space whenever he wants. Oh yeah, I forgot. He's ultra wealthy. So the only thing you need to do is just have that money in order to do it. You see? Conservatives don't want to raise taxes. They keep believing that, oh, if you raise taxes, you're going to raise it on them. No matter how many times you say $400,000 on up, $1 million on up, they still believe that you say you're going to raise taxes. So that means I'm going to get my taxes raised. Even though you're making $7.25 an hour, somehow you believe that that's going to make it to $1 million at the end. That shows you that conservatism itself makes people dumb. And on the topic, that goes with the second definition. They say that they're for free enterprise, meaning that the government doesn't regulate organizations. But then you go and watch shows like Fox and Friends and Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder and a bunch of other right-wing conservative shows. Whenever you find that a organization has decided to do something that's in their best interest, because, oh wow, yeah, I don't want people to, you know, take their business elsewhere, so I'm going to do something that's in the best of the majority, which is everyone else that's not conservative. They talk about cancel culture and how you should boycott and someone should step in and all the regulations that need to be put on these organizations. And they talk about, you know, some conservative Republican politician, you know, doing things to an organization like taking vending machines out of the area like they did with Coke. They're okay with that and putting legislation on businesses that aren't doing things that they like, so they want to put legislation on them. It's okay for them to do that, but you know, what happened to that free enterprise? You're putting legislation on them. You're boycotting. You're mad at the decision. But if free enterprise is what you want, don't you think that if the organization says, hey, I'm only doing what's in my best interest. I'm for Black Lives Matter right now, so I'm going to give them as much money as I possibly can because, hey, that's what's trending. That what gets people into my establishment. That get people to buy my product. That get people to buy my service. No, that's when the government should step in. But wait, weren't you saying there should be free enterprise? The government shouldn't step in? And then comes with private ownership. Remember that? Still dealing with the economy. Well, yeah, you know, private ownership until you need a government bailout. Because they was okay with that when the banks start to fall and falter. Oh, you gotta bail these billionaires out. You know, the government needs to give them money. Even though we should let them fail. There's other banks out there that did the right thing. Let them take their employees. Take the businesses, the building, literally right from underneath of them. Rip the damn name down. And put theirs on it. Let them panhandle. Sell your billion-dollar homes and mega yachts. And be poor. They deserve it. That's what free enterprise would do. You can't afford to pay your workers. You made a gaffe that winds up ruining all of your profitability. Oh well, that's your fault. Get out the way. That's free enterprise. But no, they're like, no, bail them out, bail them out. You have to do it. What about the jobs? The jobs come back anyway. We wind up having more jobs than we had before anyway. Let them go and let them disappear. But conservatives, again, are against that. But that's against their own ideology. Again, that's how it makes them stupid. Because you'll say you're for something else, but then change that whole narrative when it becomes in your best interest. For private ownership until you need the government to bail you out. For free enterprise until a company that's very profitable does something you don't like. see, it makes you stupid. And now let's go to another topic. I said number one was going to be the economy. The second was going to be education. Third one is healthcare, and the fourth one is religion. So let's go to education. Again, what do you hear from conservatives when it comes to education? The less of it you have, the better. Now, why? They will say that all the higher educational fields, like all the colleges and whatnot, are owned by liberals, and they're teaching you things that you're not supposed to know and that are completely early lies. You knew better back when you were being taught by your parents about how the world goes. Really? Think about it. That doesn't make any sense. If we stuck in the traditional way we thought that things should go, there's a lot of things we would never known about the country. Still to this day, we're being taught about Christopher Columbus as if he was anybody important. He wasn't. If I were to say in 1492, everyone will say Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Why is that important? He didn't discover anything. He didn't even discover the Bahamas. People were there before. You can't even say he was the first European on American soil. Because he wasn't. He didn't even make it to America. Even if you were to say he made it to America, he didn't even make it as the first European because the Vikings beat him there. He wasn't important. See, right now, we're learning that the traditional things that we learned beforehand were kind of, how can you say, masking a lot of the horrible things that we've done in this country. How we tried to wipe out Native Americans completely. How about slavery? And we weren't the worst, and everyone was doing it, but we should worry about us dealing with slavery because we are the country, we are the United States. We shouldn't turn a blind eye to it because, oh yeah, Britain was doing it, Canada was doing it. Really? Well, they were doing it themselves over there in Africa. But America did it. And a handful would be, because it was like 300,000 or so that actually landed and made it and were actually here in America due to the slave trade. They built America. The White House was burned down twice. It was built by blacks because it was burned down. We built it the first time, and they got burned down, and we built it again. So, they don't want you to go to school and learn these things. They don't want you to know about the horrible things that America has done. They don't want you to learn about systemic racism and how there's a system for things. But here again, they will say there's no such thing as systemic racism, but then you say, well, children should be allowed to change their gender. They'll complain about it. They don't know any better. You can say, well, they'll go to a hospital and talk to people. Well, we have a system in there dedicated to indoctrinate children into changing their gender and how it's okay. And wait, you said there's a system then for doing that. but then you don't want to believe in the system of racism that's built upon racism. But you want to believe that there's one that deals with indoctrinating kids into changing their gender. Think about it. That's the whole thing about QAnon. There's a system of wealthy, democratic, and Hollywood individuals, right? But then you ask them, well, then how come it can't be a system built upon racism? But you got this cabal of individuals running the show. But then it had to mean there had to be a system involved, don't you think? If they're running the show with no system involved, how are they doing it? Again, once you start to think, it makes them stupid. How is it a secret cabal or ring of powerful individuals involved and they're not using some type of system that they built to have that control? But then if they're doing that, then how can it not be that that system is being used to support racist ideas and racist things and be a culture built upon racism? They can't answer questions like that. Because if one exists, it's easy to see how the other can exist. But they don't want to believe it. They contradict themselves multiple times. And they don't want you to get an education because education will let you see things, learn things, and identify with things. Traditionally, blacks were seen as ghettofied, hoodlums, criminals, always the bad guy, right? Always the one causing problems. In the movies, the so-called authoritarian figure or police officer or just a guy with a gun will run around shooting, killing a bunch of black guys, and they say, hey, they deserved it. Extrajudicial killings is great. If you think that I'm lying, check out Ben Shapiro's movie that he created. What was it? Die Hard School Shooter. That's basically what it was. And it was horrible. But that's the thing. That's why I don't want you to have an education. Stick with what you were taught when you were growing up as a child by your racist parents, who were taught by their racist parents. Don't go out there and see that black people are actual, real, decent human beings. That they have problems just as much as you do, if not actually more. That yes, the system is actually built to be against them because they have a, quote, black name. More likely, their resume will be thrown in the trash. Where normally a, quote, white person with a, quote, white name wouldn't be. It wouldn't matter if they're literally shared the exact same resume, down to the letter. The person with the black sounding name wouldn't get picked while the white person would. That's right there systemic racism. It's not that the organization is ran by some other races. It's that they were taught to have these racist tendencies. Don't pay attention to the black sounding name, because that person with that black sounding name will more likely not be a good worker. But the person with the white sounding name would. But if you go to school, you get an education, and especially if it's paid for by the government, because again, they're against that for some odd reason. I don't know. The government literally has the money, instead of, spending the money on, funding unnecessary war against poor brown people in other countries that, truth be told, can't affect America. We can literally take every soldier and bring them back home, literally, and guess what? You're no safer with them overseas than if they're here. Because, as I like to say, the main thing that is defending our freedom is our great and wealthy economy. No one wants to bomb and destroy America. They will say they do, but they really don't. Why? Because they want those iPhones. They want those PlayStations to be bought. They want those Teslas. They want those computers. We are very wealthy. We are very profitable. And we have people who like to buy things. Our economy is our defense. We don't need to do anything. Real and truthfully, if you worry about terrorists, ain't the brown people coming from the Middle East. Yeah, those white guys who got access to those quote Swiss Army knives called an AR-15. Again, this is education. If you learn about how things work and how much we're exporting, how much we're importing, you will learn about, we really don't need them there to be fighting overseas. We really don't. They're only there to protect our connections with other countries and their resources, and to go to other countries and steal theirs. Trump was right when he said we should go over there and just steal their oil, because that's what we're doing. We're going overseas and stealing resources. That's what they're doing. But if you get educated, you'll be able to understand that. But that's not what conservatism wants. Stay in your tradition. Stay believing that the American military is this great beacon of hope in democracy, and you're only going overseas to introduce democracy to these savages who don't know anything about democracy and never heard of it. It's a beautiful gift from God himself that only America created, because there weren't any democracies ever before America. That's what conservatives want you to believe. There have been plenty of democracies. Plenty of them. There's been democracies that America toppled for businesses. That's what the whole idea of banana republics are. A bunch of banana organizations decide to get America to go and overthrow a democratically elected government so they can have control. It's easy. Just look it up. And it's real simple. If you just do it and you understand, that's what banana republics are. Banana Republic. So, a banana republic is a country with a economy of a state capitalism, whereby the country is operated as a private commercial enterprise for the exclusive profit of the ruling class. That's kind of funny. In the early 20th century, the United Fruit Company, a multinational American corporation, was instrumental in the creation of the Banana Republic phenomenon, together with other American corporations such as I don't know what that fruit company name. It's kind of crazy. As with organizational support, with occasional support from the United States government, the corporations created the political, economic, and social circumstances that established banana republics in Central America, countries such as Honduras and Guatemala. So they went and grabbed the American government and said, hey, can you overturn this diplomatically elected government so we can have control and be able to grab bananas and be able to supply them to America? Simply put. And that's the point. And I'm looking at it right now. Talked about Honduras. In the early 20th century, the American businessman Sam, whatever the heck, the founder of that fruit company I couldn't pronounce, name I couldn't pronounce, was instrumental in establishing the Banana Republic stereotype when he entered the banana export business by buying overripe bananas from United Fruit Company to sell in New Orleans. In 1910, he bought 6,000 acres in Caribbean coast of Honduras for use for his company. He conspired with someone, an ex-president of Honduras, and American mercenaries to overthrow the civil government of Honduras and install a military government friendly to the foreign businessmen. It's right there. It's on Wikipedia. I'm just literally reading it. So America, because it says American mercenaries, and they overthrew the government of Honduras and installed a military government friendly to him and his business. Right there. Democratically elected government. But you don't hear about this in school. You hear about it outside of school. You hear about it in college, but not in high school, not in middle school, not in elementary school. Why? Because conservatives would say it's the best interest. We need to keep that beautiful mythological view of America. No, let's learn the dirty stuff about America. The stuff that we did that was designed to be profitable for us, to learn how things worked. Celebrate the good that we did. Learn and never repeat the bad that we did. That's how you progress. But conservatives, again, don't want you to learn that. That's how they stay dumb. They don't learn about their history, their real history. They want to be tied up in a nice movie-style bow where America's always this knight in shining armor and always a beacon of perfection and the land flowing of milk and honey that's mentioned in the Bible. It ain't. Sometimes that honey may have some doo-doo in it. Sometimes that milk may be curdled. Anyway, on to the third one. Healthcare. Oh boy. Conservatives like things the way they are right now. Again, they don't want anything to change. So, if I were to tell you that we can have health care without having to pay a penny, nickel, or dime. You can go to the hospital, you got a splinter in your finger, get it taken out. If you're feeling real bad, real sick, and you can't get up, you don't have to worry about getting in the car, rushing to the hospital, and if you're black, get shot by some racist officers because you had to be speeding. Oh, you can get into an ambulance that's already been paid for, taken care of. Go to the hospital. We have doctors that wait on you around the clock, a team of them, about 5 to 6 doctors around the clock, making sure you're perfectly fine and okay. You don't always get prescriptions for some opioid. If you just need to exercise and you need time from your job or literally taken away from while you're working from your job and you get paid to exercise at your job, it's your actual medicine. Your doctor can write an actual prescription for it. So you can go to your job, have time taken out of your schedule where you're dedicated to work, and the other half of that time period, and the proportion of that time period that the doctor prescribed, you're now exercising and taking your medicine. If you have to take time out and calm your mind and reflect and think and calm your mind, calm your thoughts, and stop yourself from stressing out, your job has to allow you that time. If instead of having to exercise and run outside, they say, hey, we prescribe you to go to the pool and swim around at least 2 hours every day. And your job has to allow you to be paid your full 8, but work 6. Because you had to go to the area that is recommended for you to go and go swim. That's your prescription. To help lower, maybe like for diabetes, help lower your blood pressure, blood sugar, help you lose weight. Come on now. Who wouldn't want that? But the thing is, conservatives will say, that's not right. That's not cool. Keep it the way it is. I don't want to lose my insurance. Even if you're going to get better and I have to pay for it. And the rich are going to pay for it. The individuals that are super wealthy are going to pay for it. You can literally tell them, man, hadn't ever been funny that whenever a national disaster happens, a natural disaster happens, a tornado, a hurricane, a flood, we find billions of dollars to throw to it. But we don't have money to pay for a universal healthcare system. Come on. And that's what I hear all the time. Well, the government doesn't do it quite right like the businesses do. Are they really doing it correctly? If they were, you wouldn't be complaining about your health care. You won't be complaining about taking a ambulance. You will take it whenever you need it. But people are afraid to take one because it's $2,000 here. You won't be afraid to go to the hospital, no matter what type of person you are. You can be a alpha male, a beta male, whatever the hell, oat male, whatever the heck you want to call yourself. You be able to go to the hospital, go there and get taken care of. But you're afraid to do it. Why? Because of the expense. Cut the expense out. You don't have to pay for it. We already are. We already are. But again, they want to keep it in tradition. Don't move forward. Let's not find anything better. Let's stick with what we have right here. It's perfectly fine. Even though an ambulance costs $2,000. Yet again, making them stupid. And I want to get to religion. Normally, you would say that, well, conservatives had that on lock, Trey. Religion was built by them, for them, to make sure that the slaves and everyone else don't get out and understand that things are different. Not really, because even their own ideology about it isn't right. They believe that one of the most communistic individuals in history was a capitalist. The guy who literally said, "Get to Caesar what belongs to Caesar." He even grabbed the coin and said, "Who faces on the coin?" And said, "Render unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar." He told people to give up everything and follow him. He told rich people to give everything to the poor. He healed the sick without asking for a dime. But this guy is supposed to be a capitalist. Again, what I say, conservatism makes people stupid. How could you not pay attention to some of the things that he says? We're talking about his actual words, and they can't still deal with it. Come on. So, if you're going to say he's a capitalist and whatnot, how will you say that? Talking about Jesus. Don't forget, He was betrayed by Judas. Anybody know how he betrayed by Judas? Well, remember the scripture in the Bible verses and things like that. You'll find out that he sold him out to the Pharisees for some silver and gold. Money. And he knew it was going to happen. I don't think a person who was so afraid to die that he literally went and prayed and cried so hard that his tears turned to blood is going to be, hey, you know, I'm a real capitalistic man. I love money, even though the love of it killed me. See, it just takes 5 seconds of thought. Why would he love money and be a capitalistic individual if he was murdered because of one of his followers betrayed him for money? Yeah, I don't think that's going to add up right. But that's the thing. They don't think. They don't want you to think. Just like with education, they don't want you to go to school and learn things. Stay dumb. The same applies here with the religion. They don't want you to know that even Jesus was brown. All the depictions you see of Jesus, long, flowing, brunette hair, white skin. I'm sorry, man, but I know Satan is stupid, but he got at least a third of the angels to go to hell with him. So you had to have some type of sense. It's going to be hard for me to see a white guy with brown, brunette hair walking around way back in the BCs and early 80s, walking around a bunch of brown-skinned people. And I think there's something maybe up with this guy. Because he is walking around, and don't forget he didn't have any other form of transportation but those 2 or 3 times he rode on a horse or a donkey. He walked everywhere he needed to go. In that desert heat in the Middle East. And no one thought that he was anything but an average dude until the miracles he started performing. And the words he started saying. And then his actions and words created that crowd. Don't forget, he's not supposed to be some type of sculpted individual. He wasn't a beautiful, attractive man. He was an average person. So if he's an average person, he'll have to look like an average individual. And an average individual back then would have been brown skin. But conservatives don't want you to think about that. They don't want you to think about that. Don't pay attention to that. Stick to your traditional white-skinned, brown-haired Jesus. White-skinned, brown-haired, conservative, capitalistic, gun-toting Jesus. Once you start to think about what they're for and what they're against and how they don't want poor people to be helped out, oh, you're getting them handouts. Again, don't forget these religious individuals. The same God that will help the poor people spend a bulk of his time alive walking around for a prostitute. Had no shame about it. walking around with sailors who cussed, walking around with Peter who would really cut people's ears off with a drop of a dime. But again, changed these individuals from what they were. He changed Paul from Saul. Saul was a individual that would persecute and torment Christians because he loved it. Changed them into the Apostle Paul, who wrote majority of the New Testament. He went from persecuting Christians to write the majority of the New Testament because he changed those individuals. He's not for shooting up and killing people and having guns. If you're a Christian, you don't need a gun. That Bible, that's my word. That's my gun. That's my thing. That's my protection. I know God has a hedge of protection around me. I don't have to worry about going out there carrying a gun for my protection. Yes, he do say no, he don't want you to be a fool. That means steer clear of certain situations where you may need to have one. Don't go live in high crime neighborhoods and put expensive stuff around and announce that, hey, come one, come all, come steal. And expect somebody not to come in and steal. Try not to be the individual that announce things like that. Live in less crime-ridden neighborhoods. That's how you do it. That's how you not be a fool. He wants you to help out the poor and the sick. It's quite easy. And these individuals, these conservative individuals, believe that Jesus wouldn't help poor people. If he lived in today, he would say, why not raise the minimum wage? They will say, well, Lord, well, what about the businesses that were... He will tell you the same thing he always tells you. Do I not feed the birds in the air? How much more important are you than the birds in the air? If I feed the birds of the air and the fish in the sea, how much more important to me are you than them? Would I not protect you? Will I not give you what you need? And guess what? He's not dumb. You raise the minimum wage, of course people will be able to survive. If you say that, oh, that organization won't be able to make it. Even if you have an organization that relies on slave wages, guess what? The only thing they have to do is wait. That's the thing that conservatives don't want you to know. You raise the minimum wage, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything but wait. Even if you're those organizations like, oh, these fast food restaurants that live on the knife edge and they don't have any profit, just to raise one thing by 0.5% will cause the whole franchise to sink and go bankrupt. Guess what? Just wait. Because why? You raise your wages, the minimum wage is raised, and you have to pay your workers $15 an hour. Guess what that means? Your competitor has to do the same thing. And the competitor has workers. And the competitors has workers, and the workers are going to do what? Spend their money. If they have money to buy the food that's on your menu, guess what they're going to do? Come in and buy the food on your menu. And guess what they're going to do after that? Give you that money. They'll be to tip your workers. the workers get tipped and you take a percentage of their tips out because now they're being paid a actual livable wage. You get paid twice, not only for the food and service, but for the tips you're supposed to be giving your workers. They get some money from the tips, but they also have their wages actually allowing them to make a living, so you won't have to live off of their tips. It's extra income. Guess what that also means? For those individuals like, well, what about those lazy employees who don't want to work? Guess what? You give them a minimum wage, that's a livable wage. Guess what happens? You can say, go and get out. I'll fire you if you don't want to be here. You don't have to. I can get somebody who loves to come here and work. And I can give them incentives, the same incentives I'm giving you. They'll come here for the wages and stay for the incentives. Because that's how it's supposed to be. Jobs should be bidding for workers. That's why you can keep people who's supposed to be there and want to work, and those individuals who don't want to work don't have a job. And that way, you don't have to worry about people needing welfare and needing government handouts. But the businesses aren't going to do it. And the government has to kick in and tell them to do it. Again, their ideology makes them stupid. They don't want things to change. They don't want people to get helped out. They only want to help out rich people. They don't want you to be anywhere near educated. Their ideology is literally making them stupid. Well, guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for hearing me out.